This is sample 5 from the chapter A. Here we have two chunks, chunk A and chunk B. Chunk A has initial velocity of 2. The mass is 5 kilograms, and chunk B, the initial velocity is 0 because this chunk is a rest, and they are going to collide, and the final velocity of chunk A is gonna be 1 and at 30-degree angle, and they want us to find the final velocity of chunk B. To go in this, to find the final velocity of B, we're going to find first the momentum in the x direction, or the initial momentum in the x direction, and the final momentum in the x direction. The initial momentum in the x direction is gonna be equal to 10, and the final momentum in the x direction is gonna be equal to this equation here. We're going to equal these two to find the final velocity of chunk B in the x direction, which is going to be equal to 1.89 meters per second. That's the final velocity in the x direction of chunk B. Now, to find the final velocity of chunk B, but in the y direction, we're gonna do the same, but for y. So the initial velocity, the initial momentum in the y direction is gonna be equal to 0, and the final momentum in the y direction is gonna be equal to this equation right here. We're going to equal these two, and the final velocity in the of chunk B in the y direction is gonna be equal to negative 0.83 meters per second. Now, we see that in the x direction is positive and the y direction is negative. That's why I draw that the chunk B is gonna be in the fourth quadrant, because x is positive and y is negative. But now we know the magnitude. We know in what quadrant it is, but we don't know the angle, and we don't know the magnitude of the vector of velocity of the chunk B, of the final velocity. So we're going to use these two numbers because they are the components. So we're going to find the vector of the final velocity in chunk B. We're gonna use do this equation, and the value of the final velocity of chunk B is gonna be 2.1 meters per second. And to find the angle, this angle here, beta, I'm gonna use tangent minus to the -1, the final velocity of chunk B in the y direction over the final velocity of chunk B in the x direction is gonna be equal. We plug the numbers, and that is gonna give us a 24-degree angle, but negative. Is this one right here. So that is how you solve this problem.